Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Thursday, November 9th full board. Actually, this is a public hearing of the public to order. The first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please check in on your iPads. Okay, thank you. As this is a public hearing for the budget, we're first going to call for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, please come up. You have 5 minutes. Give us your name and address, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Commissioners, Public Hearing Committee. Joseph Hunt, 8306 Stanley, homeowner and taxpayer from the City of Warren, County of Macomb. I've had the opportunity to look at this year's budget, and primarily I see a lot of different things that are carryovers from the existing budget. Yesterday at your finance hearing, you had basically brought in somebody to discuss the actual allocation or the accounting of the funds that come from the capital projects fund, and what has actually been spent so far is, from what I was able to gather, it's $52 million out of the $65 million bond proposal and what comes out of the general fund. I see that there are more questions than answers when it comes down to what granular oversight that this Board of Commissioners, the legislative body of the County of Macomb, acting on behalf of the residents of and citizens of the County of Macomb, as far as what you can do in order to ascertain what you have in the piggy bank, how many different contracts are out, basically provided for to all of the vendors and contractors that seem to offer their kickback donations to the county executive, Mark Hackle, twice a year at his fundraisers. My take on the situation regarding next year's budget is basically all of the complaints that I've come up with the existing current year, and of course, as the #1 audience participant in Charter County history, I feel that basically I have a very good handle on exactly what it is necessary as far as different department appropriations. And specifically what I'll do is I'll go right back into what you had determined yesterday from your Finance Committee regarding the granular oversight and the auditing of exactly what funds have been expended so far from the Capital Projects Fund. A lot of the ideas behind the workspace utilization study that was done 4 years ago comes down to is that you have a piggy bank upon which you can all of a sudden write checks out, and then there's something that Steve Smigel had brought up several meetings ago called chargebacks. The real issue is when I added up all of the different 3.5 years of expenditures from the Capital Projects Fund, I came up with $80 million. Then I started going into the line items and using that wonderful spreadsheet called Microsoft Excel to break down the actual expenses as far as, are they legitimate expenses, are there double billing? And the real question comes down to is that when you take out all of the double billing, the real question comes down to is on whether or not this was the true intent of the Board of Commissioners when you sanctioned the approval of the bond funding to actually spend money on iPads and basically IT infrastructure doodaddles. Basically, I see a lot of contracts, long-term contracts for the court system that are coming out of the capital projects funds. And the real question comes down to looking at next year's budget on whether or not that you're actually going to get something from the finance department that actually very much details all of the expenses that came out of the capital projects fund and whether or not that those were actually truly charged back to the departments so that you, the collective legislative body, the fiduciary of the taxpayers and the keeper of the funds, have actually done your due diligence and understanding as to how much money remains in the general fund. As far as I'm concerned, I see a lot of dropping of the ball. You know, when you take a look at the Public Act 2 of 1968, the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, it's a Michigan law, that there's a lot of things that are slipping through the cracks, at least from my perspective. When I ran for Public Works office last year, I looked at the $6.6 million budget, not necessarily what was reported in the budget, but the line items, and I really question on whether or not why it is that this agency of the county government does not provide detailed checks from the check register to the taxpayers of the County of Macomb on exactly what type of expenditures are coming from the Public Works office. When we had that sinkhole issue back in Fraser.
Sir, you have 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Don't public hearings usually go on and on? I thought public hearings were unlimited time.
It's still
No?
in the public
Okay.
participation. I'll let you go for, if you're almost done, you can continue, but,
I will collectively summarize my train of thought. Basically, the Capital Projects Fund is basically a slush fund, and a lot of the issues that you are now looking into that I've brought up in many public presentations is just trying to understand exactly where within the slush fund that the shell game is actually ending up. I feel that it is necessary that because you've all of a sudden gone through and created an ordinance and basically through your legal counsel decided that you were going to all of a sudden rein in that discretionary spending, that in essence you don't have all the answers in order to make a professional render decision on behalf of the taxpayers, that this is all just a guessing game going into the stretch. Thank you.
thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing no other members, we'll close public participation and take roll. Please, commissioners, check yourself in. Motion passes. Can I get through this for a second? To
Yeah, I
finish this
can
meeting?
do it for you and bring it out.
Need a motion to adjourn for the public hearing. Moved by Duge, supported by Drollet. Please vote. Motion passes.